they say that the reason why the 49ers were named the 49ers was they couldn't get past the 49-yard line. We'll be discussing a bunch of NFL teams after this, but I just wanted to throw in that joke right before we get to the intro. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. You are watching the Camper Report Live. We have a new guest today. Welcome, everyone, to the Camper Report. Today today is K&B Takes for, I think, the fourth time, right, Kobe?
Something like that. I think 4, yeah.
Yeah. So, I'm very excited to have you on. We're going to discuss basically, a lot of things happen in the NFL, a bunch of upsets. So how are you doing today? And then we'll dive right into it.
I'm doing good. I've had a good day. I'm doing better than the Niners are. So that's always a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think everyone's been doing better than the Niners have, except the 2019 year. So, So we'll get into our first one. We don't want to dwell too much on our losses because it can get you down sometimes. So let's see. This is the first topic. All of the teams in the AFC have questions, even though this win was big for the Titans, which the Titans, if you guys don't know, you guys probably do, though, beat the Rams handily. Their defense did amazing. So the Titans really pulled an upset on the Rams. So even though this win was big for the Titans, what questions do you still have about them?
Number one, it was a weird week. We have a topic about that later, all the upsets. But it was a weird week. The Rams they've really good all year long, and their offense kind of just had a very bad game against the Titans. It was unprecedented. The Titans defense hasn't really been great this year. They've had some okay performances against certain teams, but it's not like they've been like a shutdown defense or anything like that. So they kind of overachieved a bit. And just looking at the yardage totals from this game, the Titans offense only had 194 yards of offense. And the Rams had 347. So the Titans didn't really have to move the ball much to score in this game. And if you imagine without the turnovers, one which led to a touchdown for the defense, maybe this game turns out differently. The Rams had an off week. I don't really buy too much into this win for the Titans. It's unfortunate it happened. They are 7-2. But looking at some of the wins, if you going into the season, if we saw some of these wins, you'd be like, okay, maybe they're a good team. But the Seahawks, we don't feel too great about them right now. The Colts don't seem to be good.
That was a big win at the time, but
but the Seahawks now don't seem as like they're that good. The Colts, obviously, they beat them twice. We don't feel too great about the Colts. The Jaguars, obviously, that's a team they're a bad team. The Chiefs, they're not the Chiefs of old, so that win doesn't hold as much weight as you would think. And they lost to the Jets as well, which is a very weird loss for them. And that's the only win that the Jets have had with Wilson starting. So, that's a bad look. Overall, I just don't. I know they've been unhealthy. They haven't had the receivers healthy for most of this season. So their passing game hasn't been great. Ryan Tannehill hasn't looked fantastic throughout the season. He's been okay. Really, Derrick Henry was the engine of this team, and it's not like their offense was great against the Rams because it really wasn't. They didn't have to do a whole lot. The defense had a good game against the Rams offense that underachieved big time. So I don't know. Still, I don't know what to grasp on this team without Derrick Henry. With Derrick Henry, they run the football kind of team. We don't know how this team will look going forward without Derrick Henry. Going along here. But even look at their schedule going forward, it doesn't seem as difficult. The Saints now without Jameis Winston. We'll see how they fare, but they lost to the Falcons this past week, and you have to imagine they're no longer as they were okay, but you have to imagine they're not as scary as they may have been going into that week a little earlier in the season. The Texans obviously are a mess. The Patriots are okay team. Jaguars, we already know, are not great.
Yeah.
Steelers, another okay team. Niners, we know they're not great right now. Dolphins are not good. And then Texans again. So they're only a hard game to really have remaining is maybe the Patriot game and the Steelers game. So not going to have many games to really get a true, test for this team. But nonetheless, they have a schedule where they can probably hold on to the number one seed in the AFC if they can pull some wins out here. So it's really weird. It's a team that I guess they're doing enough to win these games, and there's not really anything to really grasp on. Now with Henry out, you really don't know what they're great at. But I guess we'll learn more as we go forward. But I'm just not convinced that they're the best team in the AFC.
I think all of the teams in the AFC have questions, though this team looks pretty good. But the thing with it is last game, again, their offense, like you said, didn't have to do much because Mathew Stafford, their defense was getting pressure. I have it right here. Hold on. I think they had like 5 sacks on Mathew Stafford or something like that.
It was just a really odd game for the Rams. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a pick 6, and they had one that set the Titans up right near the goal line, so they didn't have to do much. So this game really, I still feel like their question is still the run game because they didn't even have to run the ball that much. Like they just had to kind of hold on to the lead, and they didn't even do that good on offense, like you said. So like, I still have questions about their run game and everything else and how their offense works, but it does help. I mean, the defense it did look like the defense was not going to be a problem this year for them. Well, it's not. It's playing really well. Their defensive line is playing way better than everybody expected. And it's just crazy to see because, I mean, this team, that was their strength, the offense. And another thing, going back onto what you said about the easy schedule and everything else is the Titans don't have a hard division, so they're going to probably win the division without Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry could be back for the playoffs. So if you can just kind of survive and get to the playoffs, I think that's what the Titans are hoping for. I still see them winning a heck of a lot of games this way, but yeah, it was a weird week for the Rams, and I mean, not a lot of teams do this often with Mathew Stafford because I feel like, let's see, Mathew Stafford, this was the first time he had a 2-pick game and won like a higher interception ratio than his TD ratio, like more interceptions than TDs. This was one of the first times he had that. So it was pretty surprising.
Yeah, the Rams had an off week. A lot of teams did this past week. So, we'll talk more about it later, but it's just, it was a weird week overall. And it really, it's almost like a throwaway week where he's like, okay, this week was kind of wonky. Just kind of toss away and let's figure out more about these teams next week.
Well, yeah, and I mean, they went into LA. This game was in LA, so it was that it was an impressive win. They've had a few impressive wins. Again, you're telling me by the beginning of the season they beat the Chiefs and a few other
Seahawks,
good teams.
Rams.
Yeah, you're like, whoa, like this team is really good.
The Bills too.
Really
the Bills
not.
Too.
Yeah, I mean they're
that's probably the most impressive one is against the Bills. Even the Bills have question marks. They lost to the Jaguars, so
and they can't run the ball. So
yeah,
right now I think, like you said, we're going to get into this later, but all of the teams in the AFC, every team in the NFL right now has questions. This season, that's what makes it so interesting. Is this season really is just going to be a interesting season to watch.
Every team except for 3. I think the Buccaneers, the Rams, and the Cardinals are all teams that's like. Yeah, they're all in the same conference, so that's like the weird thing. But those 3 teams were like, they're good.
Yeah,
but yeah, they added, like you said, they added Odell, so now the offense got another weapon. They
bigger receiver, which they hadn't really had.
Yeah, they brought in Von Miller, so we haven't seen him play yet. But we're going to see him on Monday, most likely. Yeah, it's just the Rams got better. They're already good. The Cardinals won without Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, AJ Green, JJ Watt, Chase Edmonds, and the Buccaneers are the Buccaneers. We already know with Tom Brady, when they're fully healthy, they're going to be a force. So those 3 teams right now, it's a shame that, this is the year where you would like there to be no conference and just let
Packers
those 3 teams be able to, the Packers as well. If Aaron Rodgers,
their defense is really playing lights out.
Yeah, the 4 best teams in the league are all in the NFC, in my opinion. And it's a shame that, they all can't make it to the championship game because it would be a good weekend if you got to see like Rams against the Buccaneers and the Cardinals against the Packers for like championship weekend. But only 2 teams can make it. So This is a year you would like the conference to not exist and just have the best 4 teams make it to the final round, but it won't be that way. So,
right, and I mean it's last year. There's some years when you like the top teams, like the Chiefs, past few years have always been like they're going to be good, but like this year there's not really any decisive teams, and that's what makes it exciting. So
yeah, football's always kind of had this though. That's why football's always on top.
Yeah.
It's always just a lot of question marks that make things very interesting.
Right. So let's get to anything else to say on that, or should we get to the next one?
We can get moving.
So the next one, obviously segueing into taking a deeper dive into Mathew Stafford's performance. I mean, have your opinions changed? Again, he's been playing MVP level. Have your opinions changed after the 2 interception performance? I watched those 2 interceptions. They were stupid, bad decisions. And I feel like somebody said this. I was listening to a podcast. I can't remember who it was, but somebody said that Mathew Stafford, the Rams, I feel like in that game, they said, were playing a lot more aggressive. They knew the tight ends were missing Derrick Henry, and they were playing more aggressive on offensively, and that's led to a few turnovers on the Rams side. So has your opinion changed on Mathew Stafford after this loss was not good? But the offensive line didn't give him much help either. So
yeah, it was a rough game overall for their offense. My opinion on Stafford hasn't changed. I still think he's a very good quarterback, top 10 level quarterback. And sometimes you just have these kind of games where they just don't play to the level you expect them to. Like, people tend to these players, they're not Madden players. There's no overall in them. They don't play the same every week. Sometimes you have a bad week. I think this week was a bad week for Matt Stafford, but as far as the season overall, he's had a really good season. This offense has been really good for the Rams. They just got better, adding Odell Beckham to the mix. So
yeah.
And Stafford's been playing really good football. He's still on the season. 68% completion percentage. Over 2,700 yards, 23 touchdowns, 6 picks. I mean, that's still MVP level numbers. And they're playing. They're playing really well. Efficient. It's a really good team. This one game for me doesn't really change that. Every once in a while, you lose games like these, and we've seen the Chiefs lose games they had no business losing. We've seen even the Niners' best year, 2019, they lost to the Falcons. And that was just a team that wasn't that great. These things happen. Just when you have an off week, it's a long season, even longer now with 17 games. So overall, I think they had a down week, but to think that maybe Stafford isn't the guy, or that this team can't get anywhere with Stafford playing at a quarterback, my mind hasn't changed on that. They're still going to be very good, and I still expect them to be, towards the top of the conference when this is all said and done.
It is, and they're going for it because next year they barely have any picks. They have, they're going to have to let Von Miller go, most likely Odell Beckham go next year. So they're going for it. And I think, Odell Beckham was a valuable add, I feel like, because they didn't really have anybody big, like, over the middle. They have all these small receivers in Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, but they don't really have all of the big ones, like taller receivers that can go up and contest it and get contested grabs that are really good. And I've going to another thing about quickly on the news about Odell Beckham is I think Mathew Stafford will get the best out of Odell Beckham. I really do think so. I think Sean
McVay will get the best out of Beckham.
Yeah.
Just getting him open. He's gonna. You can't double him because you got Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods as well, and Higbee, who's also a really good tight end. So, he's gonna have.
Understand why he wanted to come here.
Yeah, he's gonna have more favorable matchups. Their offense is gonna be, if he can stay healthy, it'll be a different level. Like, they're gonna be really good. They've already been really good, but adding Odell, they're gonna be even better.
And they're just loading up because when they lost to the Cardinals, they kind of got a reality check. And then after losing to the Titans, this was not good. The Titans, they got so much pressure Titans on them, and it was terrible. So, but yeah.
Just overall, my opinion hasn't changed on Stafford. I still think, he's really good, underrated. People put a lot of blame on the Lions' losses, on him. And one thing I say is, with Sean McVay, Jared Goff was one of the most winningest quarterbacks in the league, and then you trade him to Detroit, and the talk was Matt Stafford doesn't win games, and now look at him. Detroit has Jared Goff, and they haven't won a game yet, and the Rams are one of the best teams in the league with Stafford playing a quarterback. So the rep on him and the stat Padford and all that stuff. It's just people like to get their jokes off and just make fun of people without having any kind of real objective opinion on them. Stafford's still really good. This game shouldn't change your mind on that. And the Rams are just going to continue to be a really good team. So,
yeah, and I mean the Titans did they knew what Stafford had to do, what they had to do to stop Stafford. Like I said, I also don't even think it was all the Titans' defense. I feel like the Rams were being unusually aggressive.
It's one of those games where you can't really explain how they lost. It's like the Buccaneers losing to the Saints. It's like this: the Buccaneers are better than the Saints. Tom Brady, it's just one of those games where it's just like doesn't make any sense. This team is still really good. Just kind of toss the game out the window. It's one of those games. The Rams, that loss to the Titans doesn't mean that they're not good. I also don't think it means the Titans are world beaters. So, it's just it's 1 week. Things change a lot week to week. So we'll see. We'll see. I think the Rams get back on track on Monday. Unfortunately, they're playing the Niners. So that might be another loss for us. But overall, it was a bad game, a bad loss. Obviously, prefer it not to happen, especially when the NFC is so tough with the Cardinals. Still winning games without their starters, and then the Packers. Obviously, the Rams got help there because no Aaron Rodgers and they lose a game there. But the Rams still in a good spot though because they still play the Cardinals again. They're still playing one more time. We know the Packers just got to losing to the Chiefs, so they have the same record. So the Rams are still in a good spot too. They still control their own destiny. So that one loss isn't the end of the world. It doesn't mean you need to change your opinion on the Rams. Von Miller and Odell Beckham are coming, so you got new players, new quality players who are going to come to help them out. People's opinions on the Rams shouldn't change much. If anything, they should think they're a better team going forward.
Yeah. Well, one more thing before we switch to another topic. The Titans basically, I feel like what they did with the Rams is they basically said, we're not going to make any mistakes. We're going to play it super conservative. Eventually, you guys with your aggressive style of play are going to make a few mistakes. And that's how I think the Titans beat the Rams. Just basically playing really safe football and making the Rams beat themselves.
Rams made mistakes. They turn the ball over, and it always makes it easier. That you play safe, a clean game
the goal
line. The Titans,
yeah,
and you get some gifts from the Rams offense. It makes things a little bit easier for you.
Yeah. So the next one we got here, the Cardinals shocked a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people were expecting, at least 49ers fans, a good chance for the 49ers to win. I guess people hadn't seen Colt McCoy, and our run game was absolutely atrocious, but it shocked a lot of people when we beat the 49ers. Has your opinion changed with Kliff Kingsbury, his ability to adjust to different styles of game plans? Again, he was playing with not as mobile of a quarterback in Colt McCoy, and then he was also playing with he had to adjust to Colt McCoy because he had been playing with one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. So has your opinion changed on how he can adjust to different circumstances with all the injuries?
I think it has to. I mean, they're 8-1. They have the best record in the conference right now. And it's not like it's just like a weak conference. This is the strongest conference in the league. Where, the top 4 teams are probably arguably all in the NFC. And they're atop all of them. And they've had some really quality wins, They've beaten some good teams, and they've had some really strong performances. So, Kingsbury, they've done a great job. He definitely outcoached, Shanahan and the Niners on Sunday because obviously without, your main guys, they still got there and going to win. Obviously big time. But, Honestly, they could be 9-0 right now if AJ Green just turns around in
Yeah.
the end zone when Kyler Murray throws the perfect pass to him, because they had a game-winning drive there. So it's a really good team. It's a really good team. It's a really good offense when they're healthy. Their defense is really good too. Obviously, as far as yards go, they might not be super impressive, but they take they turn the ball over, they get turnovers, and they make timely stops.
Yeah.
And it's just they're a really good team, and a lot of it is because of the Cardinals have gotten better with Kingsbury over the years. Like, as far as the rebuild goes, they've done a really great job. They got their quarterback in year one. They had they went through their their bumps and bruises through that first year. Second year, they're almost a playoff team. Kyler Murray has an injury. Things get a little tough. They almost make it, but they miss the playoffs in the end. Just barely. And then now this year, they're one of the best teams in the league. And so, progression for both Kliff, progression for this team. The Cardinals have, successfully rebuilt, the team. They're now one of the best teams in the league in a 3-year span, which is normally the average time you expect the team to turn it around. They have. And a very tough conference at that. It's not as if they're playing in a weak conference like like the AFC South or the NFC East or something like that. This is a strong conference, and they're really good. And so I think the opinion has to change on Kliff Kingsbury, because it's not as if he's had a lot of things just like gifted to him. They have to earn this, and they're doing a really good job.
Well, and just to pull up a few stats for you, I mean, Colt McCoy, obviously, we all know 22 for 26. If you can get a quarterback to do that good, I don't care what secondary it is, you're doing something right. And the run game was going. I mean, 96 yards for James Conner. This was the first time in his career that he's had three touchdown game with 1 on the air, 2 on the ground. This statistically was very good for them with a backup quarterback. And it's really hard to change. I mean, if you're a team that goes from one of the best MVP caliber type quarterbacks to a career backup, it's really hard to adjust, especially when you're adjusting from a not as mobile guy to from a mobile guy to not as mobile guy. So they ran the ball well, and they took advantage of all of the 49ers weaknesses. It was really just a game where the 49ers made mistakes. They capitalized on every single turnover. Their offense was rolling the whole game. And so, obviously, this was the 49ers, some of the 49ers defensive line's fault, but it was very impressive, especially when you have J.J. Watt, A.J. Green, Chase Edmonds went out at the beginning of that game. So, it was crazy.
Yeah, it's just proof they're a good team. It's not just because of Kyler Murray. It's not just because of DeAndre Hopkins and people like that. They're just a good team. They're a well-coached team, and they're for real. They're for real. And obviously, Niner fans made a lot of fun of Kliff Kingsbury. I'm sure right now they hope they had him, with the way things have been going with Kyle Shanahan and staff. So, no, that could change here going forward. But I think as of right now, I think fans would rather have Kliff Kingsbury. Yeah. And he was the laughing stock of the NFC West at before the season started. So,
and the surprising thing is their defense plays super fast. Like they will fly around the football field. They get pressure on you. They're a really fast team. And for the 49ers with Jimmy Garoppolo and just the way they play, it does not match up with them at all. And it's a new age style of football that you never have seen in the past. But it works, and they really compete hard. They go into every game like they're winning, and really it starts from the top. It starts from the coach down. And so if you have that mentality of winning, of fast football, we're gonna pound you down. We're gonna play it fast. We're gonna play it really. I don't know how you say it. We're just gonna fly around the football field. If you have that mentality, then your players are gonna follow suit, and it's just everything's gonna work. So.
Yeah, they had their plan, and they executed it. They improved their defense, and obviously, as far as their offense goes, they were aggressive in getting high-end talent. They went and got DeAndre Hopkins. They went and brought in A.J. Green. They went and drafted Rondale Moore when they already had Christian Kirk, who's really good. The offense is loaded, and obviously, you have Kyler. They don't just stand pat and keep Josh Rosen around. Kliff Kingsbury comes in and sees that Kyler is a uber talent, super special player, and they bring him in, and he's been really good for them. It's just the Cardinals did it right. They built their team right, and now you're seeing things pay off for them.
Yeah, That's very. I mean, it's really encouraging because that's how organizations are supposed to be built. They did it right. 3 years, like you said, it's crazy. So, but I
Yeah.
mean, one other question that I have for you: should we get overhyped on them? Like, are they a clear cut? I mean, obviously the best teams handle adversity and they win. That's what the Cardinals do. But are they that much better than the Rams? Or, I mean, I think the Rams and them are neck and neck, really. It's a really tight race.
Personally, we have to see the Rams now with Odell Beckham, but I just think the
True.
Cardinals offense is really hard to defend when Kyler Murray is healthy because he
Right.
can do things that just very few people can do in this league. On top of them having all the talent in the world in that offense, it's just when they're healthy, I think they really are the best team in the league right now. And
Really? Okay.
We'll see because the Rams now with 2 new pieces, 2 really good players in Von Miller and Odell Beckham. We'll see how they come through. If Beckham proves to be that missing piece to really take the Rams over the top, because they're already good before, but I just think they're definitely. I think right now they're definitely the leaders in NFC. And that can change because, like I said, there's so many good teams in NFC right now. With the Rams, with the moves they made, the Buccaneers, obviously, when they're healthy, it's hard to bet against Tom Brady. Really hard. Green Bay, they went 13-3 the last 2 years.
Yeah.
They're good again this year. They lost in week 1, but they haven't lost a game since until Rodgers had the COVID thing happen.
You can't really blame them for that though.
But the way the Chiefs played in that game, I think if oh, am I blanking out? If Rodgers had played, they probably beat the Chiefs in that game. So yeah, you can't discredit them either. It's tough right now. I think I do have the Cardinals on top.
Really? Yeah, I would say it's really close. I mean, I really like the Packers, just the way their defense is playing. This defense is playing better than they have even in the 13-3 years. I mean, they shut the Chiefs down. Now, Chiefs offense has looked really sporadic, but I mean, they've looked like a very good defense, and that's without Zadarius Smith, without Alexander. What's his name? Jair Alexander.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the Packers have also looked really good, but I would say at this point, when their offense is rolling, when they're flying around the field, yeah, I would agree with you on that one.
It's just Kyler is so dynamic; he's hard to defend. Like Stafford, obviously, pocket passer. Yeah. He does have some athleticism. He can make some plays outside the pocket, but Kyler is just just a different level. He's like you almost argue if he might be better than Russell Wilson at this stage.
Yes,
they're both very similar players as far as their size and how they make plays inside the pocket and they extend plays and things of that nature. But Kyler, and just having the weapons and their offense is finally clicking. Kingsbury has a good feel for how things are going on that offense, and yeah, you just imagine that this team is just when they're healthy, they're probably on top.
I feel like also the difference between them and the Seahawks never, like, especially in the 2017, 2018, 2019 years, never got Russell Wilson that many
help.
It was all their offense was all so one-dimensional.
Yeah. And they're also still very heavy on running the ball.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously you have to run the ball in this league, but it's to the point where like their offense isn't built around Russell Wilson. It's like they're trying to build it around the run game, and that hasn't worked for them. And I mean, that's not really a hot take. I think that's very clear that McVay is head and shoulders better than Kyle Shanahan right now, for sure.
Yeah.
Unless Snead is definitely a really good GM as well. You see the roster they're putting together. People are like, oh, they have no picks. They haven't had a losing season yet since McVay's been here, and they went and they have a good team every year. So that too.
Yeah.
Rams right now overall just better than the Niners.
I am not looking forward to that game on Monday night. That is.
No one should be. I don't think there's a good reason to look forward to that game. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's any given Sunday, Monday in this week. But I think the 49ers own the Rams. That might be done on Monday.
No. And a guy made up a very good point. I think it was a few shows ago that I did. I think it was Jesse Naylor. He said, everyone says that we own the Rams. It was with 49ers cutback. Everyone says that we own the Rams, but don't forget, like,
Jared Goff. That's what happened. Robert Saleh owned Jared Goff.
Well, yes, and it was Jared Goff, like a guy that limited Jared Goff is the equivalent of almost a lesser Jimmy Garoppolo. Like, he's not good. And so that was Jared Goff days. This is Mathew Stafford. You have a very good defense, Von Miller, everyone else. This is completely different. The one thing I do say the 49ers do have an advantage over with the Rams is maybe they can, I mean, you saw what the Titans did to the Rams, to Mathew Stafford. They got pressure on him. If the 49ers can maybe just do a little bit of that, maybe they could get some pressure on Jared Goff, maybe make him, sorry, not Jared Goff, Mathew Stafford, maybe make him make some faster decisions. But I mean, we haven't seen it so far, so I don't know if we could get pressure on him.
The defensive line has been very underwhelming for the Niners. That was supposed to be the best part of this defense, the strongest part. We said it was so deep. They got talent all over the place. Doesn't look like it. They don't get pressure, really. Like not even pull up numbers, just watching the game. It feels like QBs have forever to throw the ball. And Nick Bosa's out there. So it's not like, you know, they're without Bosa or they're without, you know, Eric Armstead. I know they're without D Ford, but he's only had one good game this season, really. So it's not like they've had him all year. This defensive line just hasn't been good. It's what they invested in. And when you invest in a part of your defense that cannot get the job done, now their run defense without Kinlaw has been terrible. Kinlaw's gone the rest of the year. The run defense the last 2 weeks has been bad. You know, it's just I don't know. I don't feel like they can get pressure on Matt Stafford in this game. And I'm sure Sean McVay should have a good plan to obviously attack this defense. They're very, very undisciplined in the secondary. I feel like, and we saw a lot of PIs in that Colts game. We could see, you know, Stafford, you know, big arm. They got guys that can go down the field and make plays. They're going to test these corners. You know, Mosley being your best corner doesn't make anybody confident in your secondary. And when the pass rush cannot get there, they're not getting pressure. They're going to have time to attack this secondary. And not having Jimmy Ward, not having Jaquiski Tart, it's I know I'm doing like a slight preview of the game, but it just doesn't look good in any way, shape, or form. And not to mention this offense, if they can't find a way to get the running game established, they're really going to get blown out of the water. Because I don't trust, you know, Jimmy throwing against this secondary. Not to mention Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, this front, you know, the front line for the Rams with Mike McGlinchey now out. I'm assuming Tom Compton's going to start at right tackle. And if that's the case, whether it's Von Miller, whether it's Leonard Floyd, they're probably going to have their way. Jimmy might not have a lot of time to throw. It's doesn't look great. It doesn't look great going into this game. Rams have just about every advantage you can think of. It's just, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what exactly to say with that. This is the 1 year where the 49ers really aren't going to win on any aspect. It's going to be a complete miracle if they beat the Rams. So
at least make the game watchable, Niners. That's all I ask for. Just make the game watchable.
The problem with the Cardinals is, like, I want to watch these games, but it's like the problem with the Cardinals, even last week, it's like it's kind of boring just sitting there and watching your team get kicked on every single drive, and then your coach just, like, not putting anybody exciting out there. So this could be the week where Jimmy gets benched, though. Could be.
I don't think so. I think Kyle is stuck in the dirt with his plan.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, we like to feel this way. We've been saying this almost it's almost time for Jimmy to get benched. And we thought the Seattle game was him getting benched because he had a bad first half. And then here comes Trey Lance in the second half. It's like, oh, did it finally happen? It's like, nah, Jimmy's had a calf thing. Trey plays that half in one game. Then, you know, back to Jimmy Garoppolo. And I mean, Jimmy's been fine the last 2 weeks. He's been, well, Jimmy Garoppolo, nothing more, nothing less. So he won't get benched till this team's out of the playoffs. That's basically what Kyle said. I'm gonna have to believe him. That's how he's been acting so far this season. I know a lot of people have been hoping that Kyle's just saying this. No, he's not just saying this. This is what he believes. You know, we were hoping that he's just playing media games and trying to keep people like, oh, you don't tell people what you're planning to do. It's like, no, Kyle really plans to do this. Is what he's been doing. And no one trusts this front, you know, this regime anymore anyway. So no one believes he's, you know, lying at this point.
No. Well, I mean, we can, I guess, move on. I have nothing else to say on that. I think you spelled it out perfectly right. Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of to what we were saying before, but Jimmy Garoppolo didn't play terrible on Sunday. Again, I mean, this guy threw it 40 times, was like, I believe, like 28 for 40 or something like that. I could look it up right now. But is this time when you start to blame Kyle Shanahan more than Jimmy Garoppolo? Because I know a lot of fans were like, okay, this is Jimmy Garoppolo. He's holding the offense back. This is bad. But I feel like at this point, you can't really blame Jimmy like anymore when your coach, again, 40 times for a quarterback who didn't, that's not his strength. You only called up like 9 runs for Elijah Mitchell when he was averaging 4.5 yards per carry, which is really like pretty good. That's serviceable. So like, why in the world would you make him throw it 40 times? I mean, the one Cardinals weakness was running the ball, and then you start off throwing it. I think 3 straight plays on the opening drive was all throws. So
the funny thing is, like, we say this, but it was working. They returned the ball over, though. You imagine, like, without the fumbles, without the fumbles, which sometimes those things happen, the game might turn out completely different. Kittle gets a very good catch over the middle, and he's trying to get yards, and he fumbles the ball. Ayuk makes a heck of a catch down in the red zone, gets up, gets hit from the back, fumbles the ball. It's not as if it wasn't working, but at the same time, it's not the 49ers' strength. And what Kyle said after the game was the Cardinals gave them 6-man looks on the front, and they thought it was a good situation to pass the ball, which just logically thinking, you think so, it makes sense. But at the same time, this team, their strength was to run the football, to establish the run, so you can have play action passes, wide open passing lanes for Jimmy Garoppolo. He didn't have to do a whole lot, just one read, get the ball out, get the ball into the hands of your playmakers. That's the way his offense ideally is designed to run. But it hasn't. Last week against the Bears, they got the run game going, and that's the reason the offense was able to really get things going. And also, Deebo Samuel made a really good play. Yeah, but it's against the Bears. Eagles, once again, another game where they, had a really rough game, but they beat the Eagles, and then they beat the Lions in week 1. None of those teams, none of those wins are impressive at all. Those are teams that you expect to beat. So, against the teams that they, you would hope to get some wins against, they haven't looked good at all. It feels like, I don't know if I want to say like they're trying too hard, or it's just Kyle doesn't have a feel for what, for the game, or I don't know. It's tough.
I think that's what it is. I think it's a feel for the game.
Yeah, it's not to mention, I don't know what the cause for all the mistakes is, but this team isn't disciplined either. Like, as far as, on defense, penalties all over the place. Offense turnovers,
terrible.
Just offensive line has had some bad games. It's really, obviously, football is more than just a game on the field. You imagine maybe everything that's happening with this team. If the fan base is in such disarray, is in such, just things are so wild from the outside looking in. You wonder how things are on the inside. And
exactly,
I don't know if maybe the people talked about the lack of leadership, and there's no one, they just look so dejected and so defeated on the field when they're getting beat. A lot of heads down, no one really pumping anybody up. It's just a lot of guys just walking around like, man, what is going on right now? And they have like the same expression as like the fan base. It's like, dude, what are we looking at? What's watching? Like, what are we watching? Like, they all seem surprised themselves that they're not winning games, and like, that's just not like, it feels like no one in that locker room can really, or like now the coach, now the player can really get these guys to, to lock in and focus and to execute, for a full game. They have drives here, they have moments there, but they can't put a full game together. Even their wins, they can't put a full game together. The Lions, terrible fourth quarter. The Eagles game, terrible first half. The Bears game, terrible first half. They can't put full games together. Even in their wins, they can't put a full game together. So it's just to the point where I don't know what the cause of this is. We'll never know. What are the discussions? Is it because that Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance, is that dynamic weird in the locker room? Is that dynamic made this whole team weird? Trying to combine developing your future while also trying to compete this year. And then you lose guys you need to compete this year, like Jason Verrett, Raheem Mostert, 2 guys that they really were banking, putting a lot on, hoping that they can go through a full season, and 2 guys who just haven't. And you put behind those guys guys who aren't ready to play. Like with Mosley going down, you have Mitchell who's had to play because he's the best running back on the team right now. But Sermon, they don't ever give him play.
They didn't even suit him up.
And he had a good game against Seattle. We thought maybe that was the start of him maybe getting some more snaps. He had a rough game against Green Bay. He came back, had a good game against Seattle, and then you never see him again. And then with the cornerbacks, Lenore, he's been healthy. We haven't seen him play cornerback since the Packers game, which is week 3. Ambry Thomas, we haven't seen him play since week 1, and that fourth quarter was bad. I understand it, but that was your 3rd round pick. You expect him if the rec goes down to be able to play opposite of Mosley, and they had to go out and get help. And Josh Norman isn't good, and Drake Kirkpatrick isn't good, and they still were playing over the rookies. So it's they and their excuse or their answer to that is that they weren't expecting those guys to have to play so much this year. And it's like, so you drafted guys that you didn't think could play if you needed them to, which means that you drafted guys to not play this year, while hoping that all the guys you brought in could stay healthy the whole season. And it didn't work out.
Right.
And now this team just isn't very good.
This is a simple answer for it. When your team turns it over twice at the very beginning of a game, it really demoralizes your team for the rest of the game, especially when the Cardinals capitalize on both of you're looking at a game that you're down 17-0. I think it was end of the first quarter. So that's the biggest problem is you just can't get down that easily. And it's not even just, an unlucky fumble there. No, it's not even like it was in the rain. Like you said, this team is just undisciplined. They're all over the place. They're not coordinated at all. The offense doesn't move good. And it's not even like Trey Lance is the fix here. It's Trey Lance, even when he was playing that Cardinals game, the offense was still not coordinated. And so you really honestly, I don't know what it is, but when these type of things start to happen, it reminds me of the Chip Kelly days. It's a fresh start. You need to look for a fresh start because otherwise, you think Kyle Shanahan's going to magically take this away next year by, drafting a 2nd round pick? And I don't think there is really a complete fix for this.
Here's what you can hope for. Here's what you can hope for. Obviously, John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan just got extensions. I don't know if either of them are going anywhere this next year. Exactly. But what you can hope for is that hopefully they finally end this Jimmy Garoppolo thing after the season. Because now I'm not even 100% confident they will. I'm hoping that they do, but I could there's a world where I understand. I can feel like they could keep Jimmy Garoppolo for another year. For I don't know what reason, but it would not surprise me if they did. It would not surprise me if they did the way things have been going. But what you can hope for, if they're both still going to be here, is that with Jimmy likely getting dealt or cut or whatever, just being gone next year, they can finally start to build a team around Trey Lance and start to kind of rebuild and find maybe a new identity going forward. And maybe they can find unison and get all on the same page. Because right now, they practically put 2 different teams together. They put down Trey Lance's team, which is not until next year, and they have Jimmy Garoppolo's team, which is this year, but it's beat up. So neither team is good enough. So you hope that next year, Aaron Banks, hopefully with some time, can finally start playing. Trey Sermon, him and Mitchell, hopefully those 2 guys are the guys you lean on in the running game. Trey Lance with hopefully he can, number one, get some playing time this year so he can have something to build on going into next year. And then the defense, hopefully they finally invest in the secondary, whether it be for agency. If you trade Jimmy Garoppolo, you'll have money to use.
You have money, agency.
And you hope they get some guys in the cornerback room. It's just
there overall, are a few. It's not the cornerback in the draft isn't as deep as it was this year,
and they don't have a 1st round pick either. So
exactly. So
you can't get a premier corner in the draft.
Last year was rare. You had Asante Samuel sitting there, but yeah.
I'm just saying that's what you can hope for if they keep both these guys. But to say that we can confidently expect that to happen, definitely can't say that at this point. But they just got extensions. That's the biggest reason why I assume this will be here. Just got them. They're still fresh. Ink is still drying on those contracts. So And they let John and Kyle trade up to get Trey Lance. So I would have a hard time thinking they get rid of those guys, but without having a full season or 2 with Trey, to make things work. But I think I think what happened, and this is just me hoping that this is something that they can fix going into next year and learn from. I think what happened is they tried to run it back for the third time with the majority of that 2019 squad,
but it
but they
wasn't even the majority. You had a bunch of vets on that team that
they
wasn't
had Sherman, they
2019
had
squad.
Buckner. Obviously you have Sala with experience, so he was really good at his job, but they tried to go through the defensive line. Obviously they traded DeForest Buckner, replace him with Javon Kinlaw. That doesn't work. In their secondary, they haven't really addressed that with a real player who people actually liked. Like guys that were high on everyone's boards. It's been a lot of guys that you're like, who is that? Like, who is that kind of guys? But you hope that they go into this like offseason looking to rebuild their identity around Trey Lance and just build a team that is built on the foundation of what they have and not try to run back. They seem to like what they're saying is like, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
Right.
There is no staying the same. They've tried to stay the same.
Exactly.
They tried to stay the same, and they've only gotten worse because of it. You hope this year they realize that. Hopefully, because they stayed. I know they lost some pieces, but they stayed healthy enough to play in these games. They still have their quarterback, for crying out loud. You just hope that they learn from this. Hopefully, this really like disaster of a season. They learn from it. They don't do anything like this again. You trade Jimmy away as soon as the season's over, and you just move on with Trey as the guy moving forward. You build this team around him, and hopefully they bounce back. And you no longer have a team that's both trying to compete and trying to develop at the same time. You have a team that's is built around an identity, around a focus, and you're able to use that and then to at least put together a better season than this season. Next year. So I don't think we can write them off just yet. I know it looks really bad right now.
Yeah.
But they tried to do something that just simply doesn't work. They tried to compete and develop at the same time. You got to pick one. They should have just focused on developing this year so they can have a head start for next year. They chose not to. They kind of delayed this whole thing. But if they get, beaten on Monday and they are essentially, out of the race for the playoffs, hopefully they get these young guys in and start playing them. They have some momentum to go into next year. They build around these guys and things start to look better. But right now it's a mess. And it won't get fixed this year. But things can change in a year. A lot can change in a year for a team. And with cap space and, and
that's why it wouldn't make sense to keep Jimmy Garoppolo for his whole contract.
Yeah.
Why would you do that?
Just moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo would probably be the, just a sign that they're finally moving forward. And that I think that should start to alleviate some problems with this team.
Right.
In theory.
Yeah, in theory. And I mean, you made a very good point that I've said a few times, and I was not that agreeable to us bringing back all of these players this season because at the end of the day, like you said, you are either getting better or you're getting worse. I mean, the Rams, for example, they want to get better right now, and that was their mentality. And unlike the 49ers, they had a vision, right? Get better right now. We know we have to be better right now. Otherwise, we're going to get worse. We can't run it back. Same with the Cardinals. We have to make these moves. We have a vision. Third year, hopefully we'll be good this year, and it's worked out for them. So, I mean, I completely agree. Every single team in the NFC West, arguably except the Seahawks, have gotten better and have moved forward.
And the Seahawks aren't very good. So you see, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse.
So, like, every single team has agreed to the fact we need to find a way to, and we need to go all in, essentially. So, yeah. Well, I guess we kind of talked about this already. Do you want to cover this? The 49ers D-line was atrocious.
Yeah, they don't have
Cardinals,
Buckner.
what was the problem?
They don't have Buckner.
Right.
That defensive line was, and they don't have a healthy D Ford either. Like that defensive line in 2019 was just like stacked with talent. Armstead had such a good year because he wasn't the focal point of the defensive line. He had Buckner next to him. You're not going to double team Armstead. You're going to double team Buckner. So Armstead gets, one-on-ones all day. D Ford obviously off the edge. You couldn't double anybody on that line really.
Yeah.
Like if you double one guy, you're letting somebody else have an easy matchup. Like this defensive line right now is just Bosa. That's it. And
Bosa,
Armstead
yeah.
makes a play, here and there, but it's just Bosa for the most part. So you double team Bosa, you chip Bosa, and there you go. You got all the time in the world to throw the ball. And I don't know what it is, but I mean, I think we as fans of this team, we overrated the player they brought in. That's what we did. They brought in Zach Kerr, Maurice Hurst. We're like, oh my God, the defensive line is so deep. And those guys, I mean, they got let go. So obviously they weren't that great. And Zach Kerr got cut. They waived him. He's gone.
Right.
Maurice Hurst, he's been hurt. He's barely even played this year. Arden Key,
and then you have
he had his first sack
famous one, Ebucom. I feel like there's a reason why the Rams let him go.
Well, for number one, he wasn't a good pass rusher in Los Angeles, and that's what they brought him here to do, to be an edge rusher. And he's not a good edge rusher. So
right,
they brought these guys in. Obviously, us as fans of the team, we're all hyped, excited. Oh, this D-line, they brought in so many guys. They're going to be so deep. The guys they brought in, not that great. Not that great.
Right.
And once again, they ignored the secondary as well. So the defensive line, that's the thing. Last year, obviously having Verrett helped a lot, for the full season. But Jason, Robert Saleh did a good job, as far as mixing things up in the line, blitzing. They had sound coverage in the secondary. I don't know what happened this year as far as that goes. But last year the secondary was the best part of the Niners defense. The secondary was. And
I feel like it was Verrett.
A big reason because of that was because of Verrett. And he just out of nowhere had a fully healthy season and played at an all-pro level.
Yeah.
But Saleh was obviously did a good job adjusting in games. He was a good play caller. And they had a corner who can shut down the side of the field, which made things easier. The Niners don't have that. And are you scared of Mosley? No. You're definitely not scared of Norman and Kirkpatrick. You're throwing at them.
Kirkpatrick couldn't even tackle a running back last week when he got
and K'Ron Williams he's a good tackler. He's a solid slot corner, but he's not that great in coverage. He's gotten beat sometimes in coverage. So it's not like he's a shutdown corner in the slot. So they have no one you're scared of throwing at. And you see what happens as a result of that. So, and their pass rush, what they invested so much in, it's not good.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't say it any better myself. I mean, we've covered this whole thing, and at the end of the day, I don't think it's Chris Kasarik. I just think it's like the management, the whole operation this year was not good. I mean, it's just the whole thing as a whole, just the decisions to bring in all of these players that we thought were really good, but then just wasn't. Nick Bosa getting pushed around on the field.
Funny thing too is another team with a good D-line is Washington. They're like, oh, the D-line is so deep, so stacked. Their defense sucks too. So I don't know if having a great D-line is the way anymore. One of the worst. I don't know if having a great defensive line is or the way you go. I don't know if that's the way anymore. I think secondary is a lot more important these days especially because of the way they protect quarterbacks and also the PI calls. If you don't have guys who can play sound coverage without penalties, then
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the thing in the NFL is that's the one the pass interferences. That's the one thing that referees really look to penalize guys for. Because
and you got to get turnovers too. You got to get turnovers. A good defense can force turnovers. Give their offense the ball more times than the other team.
Yeah.
And this defense can't turn the ball over. They can't force turnovers to save their life. And they had one gift wrapped to them, handed to them, and Warner literally jumped on it, and they still didn't get it. This team just cannot, for some reason,
I remember that. That was
get turnovers.
Hilarious.
They just can't. And a lot of good defenses, sometimes it's not about not allowing a lot of yards, because you cannot allow a lot of yards and still get touchdowns scored on. Look at the Titans. Their offense didn't have to do a whole lot, but they still scored 26 points. So it's not about that. It's about forcing turnovers on defense, and they can't do that. And in order to do that, a lot of times you gotta have a good secondary. You know, the guys who can get their hands on the ball and get picks, and they have nobody who can do that. They have no ball hawks on this defense. So
I feel like also Sherman, even though he wasn't that good, at least he was really smart and kind of brought that element of
especially against
especially even when he was in his last year and wasn't doing that great with the Niners, he was that type of guy that like quarterbacks like, I don't know, Kirk Cousins or people that weren't really mobile, couldn't extend the play, they wouldn't throw to him. There's no, that side of the field they were not throwing to. So you really just had to worry about Mosley. Now you're kind of worrying about Mosley and Norman and all those pass interferences. And it's just, I mean, you could argue there's been quite a few games this year that have cost us pass interferences this year that have cost us the game. There's been so many. I mean, I remember last game.
I don't know who our DB's coach is, but they need a new one. Whoever the guy is
right
now.
They brought in a new one after the 2019 year. Remember that?
Well, they lost the guy in 2019, and they haven't got. Well, I don't know who the guy was last year. I think it might be the same guy actually. I don't know what changed.
It is the same guy. It is the same guy.
Because last year secondary was really good, but this year, I mean, it's still in first in turnovers last year, but they were good in coverage. Yeah. So, but a lot of that was because of Verrett, and they didn't do a good job.
Exactly.
Replacing him.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, we'll see. There's a lot of things wrong with this team, but hopefully they can figure it out. Yeah. So the last one we've got, what do you make of all the upsets this week? We had literally, there was a stat brought up somewhere that we had 7 contenders go down this week, or 7 out of the 12 upsets that were supposed to win. Teams that were supposed to win all lost. It was such a shakeup. I was doing my power rankings, and I'm like, who am I supposed to put at number 5? Because literally everyone lost. So it was pretty funny.
I think this happens every year. I think every year we have 1 week of season where it's like, how did all of these good teams lose?
I mean, the Jaguars beating the Bills. I mean, come on.
The Cowboys getting absolutely embarrassed.
By 30-0 by the Broncos, and they're not a good team, the Broncos.
Like, this happens every week. You just hope you can survive it when it does happen. I mean, not every week. It happens every year. Yeah. But yeah, I think this was this week of the year where things just don't make any sense. And
right.
We'll see what happens going forward. But a lot of those teams that lost, I'm not too worried about them. But it's just it is weird to see where it's like, oh my god, the Cowboys lost. Oh my god, the Bills lost. Oh my god, the Niners got embarrassed by a backup quarterback. Oh my god, the Rams lost to the Titans. Like, it's one of those weeks where it's like, Jesus. But yeah,
I mean, you had the Raiders getting beaten by the Giants. That was now the Raiders. They got
a lot of stuff going on. I feel like that one they're probably real distracted right now. They got an interim head coach. The thing that happened with Ruggs, the thing that happened with Damon Arnett, obviously he had that video and they cut him after that. There's just a lot going on in there where I think there's so much going on that they can't even focus on football right now. So it's probably part of it.
It's something that we've never, like, speaking of the Raiders, it's something that we've never really seen in football, this many things in this many weeks.
It's like a drama show over there. It's like every week is something new that's just like crazy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my, that happened? Like, what?
Yeah. So, I mean, what other ones? I'm trying to think of any other upsets that happened. We had, obviously, the stupid. Can we just quickly talk about that? Not even the refs. That was. Did you see that?
The
Steelers versus Bears.
Yeah.
That was bad. That guy should not be. That guy should not be reffing anymore. That's terrible.
The sad thing is that this is what head coaches ask for. Kyle Shanahan, Mike Tomlin, 2 guys who are are notable names. They wanted refs to start being harder on taunting, and
that Giants
the way they're enforcing it obviously is very, very ticky tacky. I can see why he might have thought Marsh was like taunting.
Yeah, but he also hit checked him at the end of the play.
Yeah, that one was like, why would you do that? Like, it's like he was trying to like show off, like, oh yeah, I got you on this taunting call. Like, I'm gonna give you a hip check and toss the flag.
Boom.
But like at the same time, they need to know what, like, it's just so tough to like. And it's weird because coaches wanted this. This is like something that they talked about that coaches wanted to happen. And it sucks that Kyle's one of them. There's nothing to hate him for. But they got to figure out how to call it. And for me personally, I feel like, why make this a 15-year penalty? Why not make it just like it counts for disqualification? Like, okay, you're taunting. that's one towards disqualification. If you taunt again,
or
you're out of the
like
game.
5 or 10 yards. Like, I don't know. And
Yeah,
maybe if it was really bad, do it 15 yards. But that one, he wasn't even talking towards the sideline. So,
and there should be like levels of taunting. Like, okay, one level of taunting, you just get like a personal foul, works towards your disqualification. Another one, maybe it's a 5-yard, 10-yard penalty. If it's like really major, maybe it's a 15-yard penalty and you're ejected out of the game. Something like a scale, because not all taunting is the same. It's not like, if someone obviously goes and pushes a guy or like, go and yells in the guy's face, and that's different. But like just looking at somebody, that warrants a flag. Like, if I just stared at somebody like after like mossed them or something like that.
Also, it was a big play, and you could argue that was a game losing, game losing penalty. Exactly. Yeah.
Over taunting, like a call that like had nothing to do on the game, nothing to do with the play on the field. Like, and taunting's like an after the play kind of penalty. I feel like that should really just be a personal foul, personal penalty, like towards disqualification. No yards unless it's like egregious or something like that, where you push a guy or get in his face, something like that. But if it's like just something like you spin the ball in front of them, or like you just like stare at somebody, like, come on now, what are we doing?
Yeah. Speaking of upsets, real quick, Dolphins are beating the Ravens 15-3.
Football.
What is that? It's crazy. It's really crazy. I'm looking right here. That's pretty crazy. So
it's also Thursday night too. Thursday night's really weird.
I know. Yeah, every night there's like obviously we had the Monday night game that was really close last Monday, and then I mean it's always the Jets, who are not a good team, always they played pretty well last week, so yeah. So, guys, this has been a lot of fun. I'm going to let you get out of here, Kobe, but thanks for joining me. I mean, this was a lot of fun talking football again with you. So,
yes, sir. It always is.
Yeah. Well, we will see you guys again later. I'll probably be back next week. 49ers play the Rams on Monday Night Football. Maybe I'll do a preview show with somebody like that. But it's been fun, everyone. This is K&B Takes, Kobe Ransom, and me, and we will see you guys later. Signing out.